Have you ever watched your child make a mistake, and before you even had a chance to respond, you could see it happen? Their shoulders drop. Their face changes. Their eyes look away. They are no longer just dealing with the forgotten homework, the messy room, the missed deadline, the lost water bottle, the late assignment, or the emotional blow-up. They are dealing with something much heavier. They are dealing with the belief that this mistake is more evidence that they are always falling short. And if you are parenting a child with ADHD, loving a partner with ADHD, or living inside a family system where ADHD, anxiety, OCD, emotional dysregulation, or executive functioning challenges are present, you know exactly what I am talking about. The mistake is almost never just the mistake. The mistake becomes the doorway into shame. And here is where so many families get stuck in same cycle and repeated patterns. The parent sees the behavior and wants accountability. The child feels the shame and goes into defense mode to protect themselves. The partner wants follow-through, but the ADHD spouse only hears the criticism. The family wants change, but the nervous system hears and fees danger. So the conversation that was supposed to help everyone move forward becomes another loop of blame, complete shutdown, intense defensiveness, incredible frustration, and yep, the family system goes offline in total disconnection. The forgotten backpack becomes the end of the world. The messy bedroom sends a message that their child is ungrateful and does not care. The late bill becomes a referendum on whether someone truly understands the importance of paying a bill on time so there are not late fees, or how paying a bill late can absolutely affect your credit. Why paying a parking ticket the moment you receive it instead of waiting can double in fees. And suddenly, everyone is emotionally exhausted, nobody feels understood, and the original problem still has not been solved. This is why families do not just need more consequences. They need a repair language, a script, a tool to get back on track and repair. I have seen so many clients now in their late 20s who have disappointed family members, friends, coworkers, and more importantly, themselves. The pattern I am seeing is that they do not know how to repair. I teach them that we all make mistakes, and that they were diagnosed with ADHD, but they were not given the playbook on how to work with it and not against it. That having systems in place is not any indication they are less than they just need to incorporate the tools and systems they need to help them get out of their own way. I ask them, if you broke your leg tomorrow and the doctor said, we need to put a cast on it and here are some crutches to help you get around, would you object to that? No. So let's reframe how we use tools in your daily life and how MOURN can help you repair, but also have you stop and implement the tool so that it does not happen next time. Welcome back. I'm Stephanie Buckley, ADHD specialist and family systems coach and host of the Path to Peace Therapy podcast. I work with children, teens, young adults, couples, and families navigating ADHD, anxiety, depression, OCD, emotional dysregulation, executive functioning challenges, and the complex relationship dynamics that often develop around them. I am also the mother of a now thriving neurodivergent young adult, and many of the tools, frameworks, and strategies I share have been shaped not only by my professional training, but by decades of lived experience inside a family system impacted by ADHD and OCD. One of the things I have learned over the years is that most families are not struggling because they do not love one another. Most couples are not struggling because they do not care deeply for one another. Most children are not struggling because they are lazy, defiant, or unmotivated in their daily lives. More often than not, families become stuck because they lack a common language for understanding what is happening and a practical framework for what to do next. When mistakes occur, which they inevitably do because we are human, emotions can absolutely take over. Parents can become increasingly frustrated. Children become incredibly defensive. Couples become increasingly reactive. Everyone becomes focused on what went wrong, while very little attention is given to what will help the situation move forward. So let's do that today. That is why I created the acronym MOURN. I wanted families to have a tool they could actually remember in the moment when emotions are high and everyone's nervous system is starting to activate. I did not want another complicated parenting theory that sounds beautiful in a book, but disappears the second a teenager rolls their eyes, a child melts down, a partner forgets something important, or a parent feels that familiar surge of frustration. I wanted something simple, memorable, compassionate, and accountable. I wanted a framework that helps families slow down long enough to ask, what actually happened here? What did this impact? How do we repair it? And what is the next right step? I chose the word mourn very intentionally because many individuals with ADHD are not only reacting to the mistake in front of them, they are often mourning years of feeling like they are always falling short. They are mourning the version of themselves they wish they could be more consistently. They are mourning the good intentions that did not turn into follow-through. They are mourning the look of disappointment they have seen on a parent's face, a teacher's face, a coach's face, a spouse's face, or even their own face in the mirror. And families are mourning too. Parents mourn the ease they thought parenting would have. Partners mourn the reliability they hoped would come naturally. Children mourn the feeling of being understood before they are corrected. Families mourn the connection that gets lost when every mistake turns into another emotional courtroom. MOURN gives families a way to move through mistakes without turning those mistakes into identity. It helps the family name what happened without shaming the person. It helps each person own their part without collapsing into blame. It helps everyone understand the impact without drowning in guilt. It creates a pathway for repair instead of punishment. And most importantly, it moves the family toward the next right step, because real change does not usually happen when people are humiliated. Real change happens when people feel safe enough to stay present, accountable enough to take responsibility, and supported enough to do something differently the next time. This is especially true in families impacted by ADHD. ADHD is not simply about attention. It affects executive functioning, emotional regulation, working memory, organization, planning, task initiation, prioritization, and time management. Executive functioning is the brain's management system. It is the part of the brain that helps us plan, pause, organize, sequence, remember, begin, finish, and adjust when something unexpected happens. So when a child forgets to turn in the homework that is literally sitting in the backpack, or when a teenager leaves wet towels on the floor for the 1,000th time, or when an adult partner says, "I forgot," again, the behavior is not always a sign of not caring. Often, it is a sign that the brain's management system did not successfully move the task from intention to execution. And that distinction matters tremendously, because when we mislabel an executive functioning problem as a character problem, we create shame where strategy is actually needed. As a result, individuals with ADHD often experience repeated moments of forgetting, losing, misplacing, procrastinating, running late, missing deadlines, overlooking details, or struggling with follow-through. While these behaviors may appear small when viewed individually, they can accumulate over time and create a tremendous amount of shame. Eventually, many individuals stop seeing mistakes as something they did and begin seeing mistakes as evidence of who they actually are. That can be detrimental to their confidence, self-esteem, and identity. A child who hears, "Why can't you just remember?" enough times may begin to believe, "Something is wrong with me." A teenager who is constantly corrected may begin to believe, "I am always disappointing people." An adult who cannot seem to keep up with the invisible demands of daily life may begin to think, "Everyone else seems to know how to do life, and somehow I missed the class." That is where ADHD becomes more than a set of symptoms. It becomes a relational story. It becomes a family story. It becomes the way people begin to see themselves inside the system. This is where Bowen family systems theory gives us a powerful lens. Bowen believed that we cannot fully understand a person in isolation because every person exists inside an emotional system. In a family, one person's anxiety affects the whole system. One person's dysregulation can activate another person's fear. One person's forgetfulness can trigger another person's need for control. One person's criticism can trigger another person's defensiveness. The family becomes an emotional circuit board. When one part lights up, the whole system feels the charge. So in an ADHD family system, the issue is rarely just the missing assignment, the messy room, the forgotten appointment, the late arrival, or the unwashed dishes. The issue is what the mistake starts to mean inside the family. The parent may think, if I do not stay on top of this, my child will fail. The child may think, no matter what I do, I am always in trouble. The spouse may think, I cannot trust you to follow through. The partner with ADHD may think, I am never enough. Now we are no longer dealing with a simple mistake. We are dealing with anxiety, meaning, reactivity, shame, and emotional patterns that repeat over time. Bowen used the term emotional reactivity to describe what happens when people respond from anxiety instead of thoughtful choice. Emotional reactivity is when the nervous system takes the wheel. It is the parent who walks into the bedroom, sees clothes everywhere, and immediately says, "This is ridiculous. How many times do I have to tell you?" It is the teenager who hears that tone and instantly says, "Get out of my room. You are always yelling at me." It is the spouse who sees another bill unpaid and says, "I knew you would forget." It is the ADHD partner who responds, "Nothing I do is ever good enough for you." Everyone believes they are responding to the immediate moment, but often they are responding to years of accumulated frustration, fear, disappointment, and shame. The nervous system is not reacting to one towel on the floor. It is reacting to the entire history of towels on the floor. And honestly, if towels could talk, they would probably ask for a family meeting. From a Bowen lens, one of the most important goals is differentiation of self. Differentiation means the ability to stay connected to the people you love while also staying grounded in yourself. It means I can care about your feelings without being swallowed by them. It means I can hear your frustration without becoming defensive. It means I can set a boundary without becoming cruel. It means I can acknowledge a mistake without collapsing into shame. In families impacted by ADHD, differentiation is essential because the emotional temperature can rise very quickly. A parent may become overfunctioning, which means they begin doing too much for the child because they are anxious about the child's future. The child may become underfunctioning, which means they become less capable over time because someone else is carrying the responsibility for them. This pattern usually begins with love. A parent steps in because they care. They remind, rescue, organize, email the teacher, pack the backpack, find the missing shoes, smooth over the conflict, and prevent the consequence. But over time, the child may learn, someone else will manage the anxiety for me. The parent may learn, I cannot relax unless I am controlling the outcome. And the family becomes stuck in a dance where everyone is exhausted and nobody is actually becoming more capable. This does not mean parents should step back completely and let children sink. That is not the goal. Children with ADHD need scaffolding. Scaffolding means support that helps a child reach the next level of functioning without taking over the entire task. For example, doing your child's homework is not scaffolding. Sitting next to your child while they identify the first 3 steps is scaffolding. Cleaning your teenager's entire room while they are at school is not scaffolding. Standing in the doorway and saying, let's choose one category first, clothes, trash, or dishes, is scaffolding. Paying every late fee for a young adult without a plan is not scaffolding. Helping them create an auto-pay system, a visual calendar, and a weekly money check-in is scaffolding. The goal is not abandonment. The goal is supported responsibility. That is the sweet spot. High support, high accountability, low shame. Solution-focused therapy also gives us a beautiful and practical lens here, because solution-focused therapy does not begin with the assumption that people are broken. It begins with the assumption that people have strengths, resources, exceptions, and moments when the problem is already less intense. In other words, we do not only ask, why does this keep happening? We also ask, when does this happen less? That question is incredibly powerful. If your child forgets homework 4 days a week, but remembers on Fridays, we get curious about Friday. What is different about Friday? Is there less homework? Is there a different teacher? Did they pack their bag the night before? Did someone give a reminder at the right time? Did they use a visual cue? Did they feel less overwhelmed? Solution-focused therapy teaches us to look for exceptions because exceptions are clues. They show us that the problem is not happening 100% of the time, which means there is already a doorway into change. This is important because families often become problem-saturated. A problem-saturated story is when the problem becomes the dominant narrative. The child becomes the forgetful one. The teenager becomes the difficult one. The spouse becomes the irresponsible one. The parent becomes the nag. The family begins organizing itself around the problem, and everyone starts playing their assigned role. But people are not roles. They are complex human beings with nervous systems, histories, strengths, fears, skills, and unmet needs. So a solution-focused approach asks, what do we want more of? Not just, what do we want to stop? That is a huge shift. Instead of saying, stop being late, we ask, what would being on time require? Instead of saying, stop forgetting your homework, we ask, what system would make remembering easier? Instead of saying, stop yelling, we ask, what would help this family lower the emotional temperature before the conversation begins? That phrase, lower the emotional temperature, is very important in family systems work. When the emotional temperature is too high, the thinking brain goes offline. The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for reasoning, planning, impulse control, and problem solving, becomes less available when the nervous system is flooded. Flooding means the body is overwhelmed by emotion and stress physiology. The person may look angry, shut down, sarcastic, avoidant, or defiant, but underneath the behavior is often a nervous system that is overloaded. In ADHD families, this happens frequently because ADHD can involve emotional dysregulation. Emotional dysregulation means emotions can rise quickly, feel intense, and take longer to come back down. So when a parent tries to teach a lesson during a meltdown, it usually does not land. That is not because the child does not care. It is because the brain is not in learning mode. The brain is in protection mode. This is exactly why MOURN matters. It gives families a way to respond when the nervous system has been activated and the family system is starting to spiral. The M in MOURN stands for mistake. The first step is to name the mistake clearly without turning it into an identity. This is extremely important through the ADHD lens because individuals with ADHD often experience repeated mistakes related to working memory, time blindness, emotional regulation, planning, task initiation, or follow-through. Working memory is the brain's ability to hold information in mind long enough to use it. For example, a child may fully intend to turn in the homework, but once the bell rings, the instruction disappears from the mental workspace. Time blindness means difficulty sensing the passage of time accurately. A teenager may truly believe they have 10 more minutes, only to realize they are already late. When we name the mistake without shame, we might say, the assignment did not get turned in, instead of, you are irresponsible. We might say, The towel was left on the floor, instead of, "You never care about this family." The mistake needs to be specific, observable, and separate from the person's character. The O in MOURN stands for Own Your Part. This is where accountability enters, but not the kind of accountability that crushes a person. This is grounded accountability. In a family system, everyone has a part in the pattern. The child may need to own that they avoided the assignment. The parent may need to own that their tone became too harsh. The partner with ADHD may need to own that they forgot to pay the bill. The non-ADHD partner may need to own that they waited until they were furious before bringing it up. Through a Bowen family systems lens, this matters because families often get stuck in reciprocal patterns. One person overfunctions, another underfunctions. One person pursues, another withdraws. One person criticizes, another defends. Owning your part does not mean owning the entire problem. It means identifying your piece of the emotional dance so the system can begin to shift. The U in MOURN stands for understand the impact. This is where empathy comes in. Empathy means we try to understand how our behavior affected another person, even if we did not intend to hurt them. For example, a child may say, "When I forgot to bring the form home, it created extra stress for you because you had to email the teacher." A parent may say, "When I yelled, I can see that you felt attacked and embarrassed." A spouse may say, "When I forgot to follow through, I understand that it made you feel alone with the responsibility." Understanding impact is not the same as drowning in guilt. Guilt says, "I did something that affected someone else." Shame says, "I am bad." We want guilt to become useful information, not shame to become an identity. Understanding impact helps families repair because it tells the other person, "Your experience matters to me." The R in MOURN stands for repair. Repair is the bridge back to connection after disconnection. Repair does not mean pretending it did not happen. Repair means we take action to restore trust, safety, and responsibility. A repair might sound like, "I am sorry I yelled. I was anxious, but I do not want to speak to you that way." It might sound like, "I forgot the assignment and I am going to email my teacher and write the reminder on my calendar." It might sound like, "I missed the payment and I am setting up autopay today, so this does not keep living in your nervous system." Repair is especially important in ADHD family systems because mistakes will happen. Forgetting will happen. Emotional flooding will happen. The goal is not a rupture-free family. The goal is a repair-rich family. A repair-rich family teaches children that mistakes are survivable, relationships can recover, and accountability can happen without humiliation. The N in MOURN stands for Next Right Step. This is the solution-focused part of the acronym. We do not need to solve the entire family history in one conversation. We need to identify the next small step that moves the system forward. Solution-focused therapy asks, what works? When is the problem less intense? What is one small thing we can do differently next time? The next right step might be creating a visual checklist, setting a phone reminder, packing the backpack the night before, using a shared calendar, taking 10 minutes before continuing the conversation, or practicing a new script. For ADHD brains, the next step must be clear, concrete, and doable. Be more responsible is not a next step. Put the permission slip in the red folder before dinner is a next step. Stop being emotional is not a next step. Take a 10-minute reset and come back to repair is a next step. So when something goes wrong in your family, I want you to remember MOURN. Name the mistake. Own your part. Understand the impact. Repair. Choose the next right step. This acronym gives families a way to move from shame to structure, from blame to responsibility, and from emotional reactivity to emotional leadership. It helps the child with ADHD learn that a mistake is not the end of the story. It helps the parent remember that correction lands better when connection is still intact. It helps couples stop fighting about who is the problem and start looking at the pattern. Most importantly, it gives everyone a way back to one another. This is why repair is so important. Repair is the process of returning to connection after disconnection. It is not pretending nothing happened. It is not letting someone off the hook. It is not avoiding accountability. Repair means we come back after the storm and say, something happened between us. Let's understand it. Let's take responsibility for our parts. Let's decide what we can do differently next time. Repair is one of the most important tools in an ADHD family system because mistakes will happen, emotional moments will happen, forgetting will happen, reactivity will happen. The goal is not a family without rupture. That family does not exist. The goal is a family that knows how to repair. A family that can repair becomes more resilient because disconnection does not become the final chapter. And this is where I want to be very clear. Accountability without shame is possible. In fact, it is more effective. Shame says, you are the problem. Accountability says, this behavior needs attention. Shame says, you always mess everything up. Accountability says, this did not work and we need a better system. Shame says, how could you do this again? Accountability says, what got in the way and what is the next right step? Shame collapses the self. Accountability strengthens the self. Shame makes people hide. Accountability helps people grow. And in ADHD families, this distinction is not soft parenting. It is smart parenting. It is brain-based, systems-based, and solution-focused. Let me give you an example. Your child forgets to bring home the math worksheet again. A shame-based response might sound like, I cannot believe you forgot again. This is exactly why your grades are slipping. You need to start caring. Now, I understand why a parent might say that. Parents are tired. Parents are scared. Parents are carrying the mental load. Parents are often thinking 10 steps ahead because they know how quickly one missing worksheet can turn into a missing grade, a teacher email, a late-night meltdown, and a family argument. But even if the parent's fear is valid, that response often activates shame and defensiveness. A more solution-focused response might sound like, okay, the worksheet did not make it home. That tells us the current system is not working. Let's use MOURN. The mistake is that the worksheet did not come home. Let's each own our part. Maybe you forgot to put it in your folder, and maybe I asked about it when I was already frustrated. Let's understand the impact. This created stress tonight, and I can see you feel embarrassed. Now let's repair and choose the next right step. What cue can we add tomorrow so the worksheet gets from your desk into your backpack? This keeps the child in problem-solving mode instead of self-protection mode. Now let's apply the Bowen lens to that same moment. The forgotten worksheet is the content issue, but the emotional process is what is happening underneath. The parent's anxiety rises. The child senses disappointment. The child becomes defensive. The parent becomes more intense. The child shuts down or argues. The parent feels disrespected. The child feels misunderstood. The worksheet is now no longer the worksheet. It has become a symbol of the entire family's frustration. Bowen would encourage us to slow down and observe the pattern instead of getting swallowed by the content. What happens in this family when someone makes a mistake? Who gets anxious first? Who pursues? Who withdraws? Who rescues? Who criticizes? Who collapses? Who becomes the identified problem? These questions matter because if we only focus on the worksheet, we miss the system. In family systems theory, the identified patient is the person who appears to be the problem, but is often carrying the stress of the larger system. In an ADHD family, the child with the most visible symptoms may become the identified patient. Everyone says, if he would just get organized, we would be fine. Or, if she would just stop overreacting, our house would be calmer. But often the child's symptoms are interacting with parental anxiety, sibling resentment, marital stress, inconsistent routines, unclear expectations, or a lack of shared language. This does not mean the ADHD symptoms are not real. They are very real. It means the solution cannot only be placed on the child's shoulders. The family system must also change its dance. That is why I often talk about the importance of a shared family language. When a family has no language, everything becomes personal. You do not care. You are nagging. You are lazy. You are controlling. You are dramatic. You are impossible. But when a family develops language, they can name the pattern without attacking the person. For example, instead of saying, "You are being ridiculous," a parent can say, "I think your nervous system is overloaded." Instead of saying, "You never listen," a spouse can say, "I think the task did not move from hearing to action." Instead of saying, "You are always on my back," a teenager can say, "I am feeling flooded and I need 10 minutes before I can talk." Language gives the family a map, and when a family has a map, they are less likely to keep driving straight into the same emotional ditch. A solution-focused question I love for families is this: what would 1% better look like? Not 50%. Not a complete personality transplant by Thursday, just 1%. If mornings are chaotic, 1% better may mean backpacks are packed the night before. If homework is a war zone, 1% better may mean the child starts with the easiest assignment first to build momentum. If a couple is stuck in the same argument about follow-through, 1% better may mean writing tasks in one shared location instead of relying on verbal reminders. If a teenager shuts down every time accountability comes up, 1% better may mean beginning the conversation with validation before correction. 1% sounds small, but small changes in a family system can create large shifts over time because systems are interactive. When one person changes their part of the dance, the whole dance has to adjust. Another important solution-focused tool is the scaling question. A scaling question sounds like this. On a scale from 1 to 10, where 10 means this is going as well as it realistically can, and 1 means it is completely overwhelming. Where are we today? This works beautifully with ADHD because it makes abstract emotional experiences more concrete. A child may not be able to explain why homework feels impossible, but they may be able to say, "I am at a 3. Then we can ask, what would move you from a 3 to a 4? Notice we are not asking, how do we get to 10 immediately? That would overwhelm the nervous system. We are asking for the next reachable step. This builds agency. Agency means the belief that I can influence what happens next. Many individuals with ADHD lose agency after years of feeling like they are always behind, always corrected, and always disappointing someone. Solution-focused work helps rebuild agency one small success at a time. From a Bowen perspective, parents also need to look at their own anxiety. This is not blame. This is leadership. In a family system, the most regulated person has the greatest capacity to influence the emotional climate. If a parent can pause, breathe, lower their tone, and stay thoughtful, the child has a better chance of borrowing that regulation. This is called co-regulation. Co-regulation means one nervous system helps another nervous system settle. Children do not learn regulation because we lecture them into calm. They learn regulation because we model it, practice it, and repair when we miss it. And yes, we will miss it. Every parent misses it. The goal is not to be a robot with a parenting book and a water bottle. The goal is to become aware enough to say, "I was too reactive. Let me try that again." That phrase, "let me try that again," is one of the most powerful repair tools a parent can use. Imagine a parent walking into the kitchen and seeing that the lunchbox was never emptied. The first response might be, "Seriously? How hard is it to empty your lunchbox?" Then the parent sees the child's face fall or harden. That is the moment of choice. The parent can continue down the shame road, or the parent can repair in real time. Actually, let me try that again. I am frustrated because we have talked about this, but I do not want to shame you. Let's use MOURN. The mistake is the lunchbox did not get emptied. My part is that my tone was too sharp. The impact is that this created stress between us. The repair is that I am going to speak to you with respect. The next right step is that we empty it now and add it to the after-school checklist. That is not weakness. That is differentiation. That is the parent staying connected and grounded at the same time. That is leadership inside the emotional system. Couples need this language too because ADHD can create painful pursue-withdraw patterns in relationships. One partner may become the pursuer, constantly reminding, asking, checking, correcting, and managing. The other partner may become the withdrawer, avoiding conversations because every conversation feels like evidence of failure. The pursuer often feels alone and overburdened. The withdrawer often feels criticized and inadequate. Both are hurting, both are reacting, both are protecting themselves. The problem is that their protection strategies trigger each other. The more one partner pursues, the more the other withdraws. The more the other withdraws, the more the first partner pursues. That is the cycle, and the cycle becomes the enemy, not the people. A Bowen-informed and solution-focused couple conversation might sound like this. We are not going to make this about who is the bad partner. We are going to look at the pattern. When tasks are forgotten, anxiety rises. When anxiety rises, one of us starts managing harder. When one of us manages harder, the other feels criticized and pulls away. When that person pulls away, the first person feels abandoned with the responsibility. So the real question is not, who is wrong? The real question is, what system would reduce the need for one person to carry all the remembering? That question moves the couple from blame to structure. And ADHD relationships need structure, not because love is absent, but because love alone does not create working memory, time awareness, or follow-through. A shared calendar, a weekly reset, auto-pay, visual reminders, task ownership, and written agreements are not unromantic. They are how a neurodiverse relationship protects connection. Honestly, nothing says romance like not having the same fight about the trash cans every Tuesday night. Now let's talk about children and shame because this is where my heart always lands. Many children with ADHD feel like they are falling short on a daily basis. They are corrected at school, corrected at home, corrected in sports, corrected in friendships, corrected by siblings, and eventually corrected by themselves. Their inner critic becomes loud. The inner critic is the internal voice that says, "You messed up again. You are too much. You are not enough. You cannot handle this." Over time, that inner critic can become more damaging than any external criticism because the child begins carrying it everywhere. This is why our response to mistakes matters so much. We are not just correcting behavior. We are shaping the child's internal working model. An internal working model is the set of beliefs a person develops about themselves, others, and relationships. A child may develop the belief, "When I struggle, people help me problem solve." Or they may develop the belief, "When I struggle, people shame me." Those are very different emotional blueprints. So what do we do instead? We create a repair pathway, and that repair pathway is MOURN. A repair pathway is a predictable set of steps the family uses when something goes wrong. This is important because when emotions are high, nobody needs a brand new 10-part plan. The ADHD brain especially benefits from simple, repeatable language. The repair pathway begins with naming the mistake. Then we own our part. Then we understand the impact. Then we repair. Then we identify the next right step. This is how a family moves from emotional flooding into emotional leadership. It gives the child a way to stay connected to accountability without drowning in shame. It gives the parent a way to lead without overfunctioning. It gives the couple a way to talk about painful patterns without turning each other into the enemy. The next right step is central to solution-focused work. It keeps the family from drowning in the entire ocean of the problem. If a teenager has 10 missing assignments, the next right step is not a speech about college, adulthood, responsibility, and the family's entire emotional history. The next right step might be opening the laptop, then finding the portal, then writing down the missing assignments, then choosing the easiest one, then emailing one teacher. We are building momentum. Momentum matters because ADHD often makes task initiation difficult. Task initiation means starting a task, especially when it is boring, overwhelming, unclear, or emotionally loaded. Many people with ADHD do not need someone to yell, "Just do it." They need help making the task visible, smaller, and less emotionally threatening. This is why I always say that clarity is kindness. Vague expectations create anxiety. Clean your room may sound simple, but for an ADHD brain, that can feel like being dropped into the middle of a department store after a tornado with someone yelling, "Fix it." A clearer instruction would be, put dirty clothes in the hamper, dishes in the kitchen, trash in the trash bag, and school papers on the desk. Even better, write it down. Even better than that, take a picture of what done looks like. ADHD brains often do better with externalized structure. Externalized structure means we take the expectation out of the air and put it somewhere visible. A checklist, calendar, whiteboard, sticky note, phone reminder, timer, picture, or routine. This is not babying. This is building a prosthetic for executive functioning. If someone has poor vision, we do not shame them for needing glasses. We give them glasses. If someone has weak working memory, we should not shame them for needing reminders. We give them systems. Now, I also want to be careful here because support does not mean removing all discomfort. Bowen family systems theory would caution us against overfunctioning because when one person carries too much responsibility, another person may not develop enough responsibility. The goal is not to prevent every consequence. The goal is to make consequences clear, predictable, and connected to growth. A shame-based consequence says, "You failed, so now you suffer." A growth-based consequence says, "This choice created an outcome, and now we will repair it." If a child forgets a sports uniform, maybe the parent does not speed across town every time to rescue it. Instead, the child learns to use a packing checklist the night before. If a teenager spends all their money impulsively, maybe the family creates a spending plan with categories and limits. If a young adult misses a payment, maybe they set up autopay and review the account weekly. The consequence is not humiliation. The consequence is reality plus support. Another Bowen concept that matters here is triangulation. Triangulation happens when anxiety between two people gets pulled into a third person. In families impacted by ADHD, this can happen easily. One parent is frustrated with the child, so the other parent steps in as the rescuer. Now, the issue is no longer the child's missing homework. It becomes a conflict between the parents. One parent says, "You are too hard on him." The other says, "You are too easy on him." The child learns to move between them, consciously or unconsciously, and the parental subsystem becomes divided. This is why alignment matters. Parents do not have to agree on every detail, but they need to present a united, thoughtful, regulated structure. The child should not have to manage the emotional gap between the parents. That is too much power and too much anxiety for a child. A solution-focused family meeting can help with this. I often recommend a short weekly reset, not a 3-hour summit with snacks and emotional damage. Keep it brief. Ask, what worked this week? What was hard? What is one thing we want to make easier next week? What support is needed? Who owns what? This shifts the family from reactive crisis management to proactive planning. It also helps the ADHD brain because anticipation is easier than emergency repair. If every Monday morning is a disaster, the family should not keep acting shocked every Monday morning. The system is giving you data. Use the data. Sunday night becomes the place where Monday morning is protected. Clothes out, backpack ready, lunch planned, calendar reviewed, alarm set, gas in the car, shoes located. And yes, shoes apparently enjoy hiding like they are in witness protection, so find them before the morning. The deeper goal is to help the family move from blame to curiosity. Curiosity is one of the most underrated clinical tools. Blame shuts the system down. Curiosity opens it up. Blame says, "Why are you like this?" Curiosity says, "What got in the way?" Blame says, "You never follow through." Curiosity says, "Where did the system break?" Blame says, "You are so dramatic." Curiosity says, "What is your nervous system trying to tell us?" Curiosity does not remove accountability. It makes accountability possible because people are more likely to take responsibility when they do not feel emotionally attacked. The nervous system can learn when it feels safe enough to stay present. This also allows us to separate the person from the pattern. Your child is not the meltdown. Your spouse is not the forgotten task. You are not the mistake. The pattern is the thing we are studying. This is a core family systems move. We externalize the pattern so the family can work together against it. Instead of "you are the problem," we say, "the morning routine is breaking down." Instead of "you are irresponsible," we say, "the bill-paying system is not strong enough yet." Instead of "you are impossible," we say, "the emotional escalation pattern is taking over." This matters because when people feel like the problem, they defend themselves. When people can see the problem as a pattern, they can collaborate. For individuals with ADHD, this can be life-changing. Many have spent years believing they are lazy, careless, dramatic, too sensitive, irresponsible, or not trying hard enough. But when we understand ADHD through a nervous system lens, an executive functioning lens, a family systems lens, and a solution-focused lens, the story changes. We begin to see that many behaviors are not moral failures. They are signals. Avoidance may signal overwhelm. Defensiveness may signal shame. Procrastination may signal task paralysis. Anger may signal embarrassment. Messiness may signal weak systems. Forgetfulness may signal working memory overload. Emotional outbursts may signal nervous system flooding. Once we understand the signal, we can respond more effectively. I want families to remember this. The goal is not to lower expectations. The goal is to build sustainable expectations. Sustainable expectations are expectations that a person can realistically meet with the right structure, support, practice, and accountability. A sustainable expectation says, "We believe you are capable, and we are going to help you build the system that makes capability possible." It says, "You are responsible for your homework, and we will help create a routine so you can manage it." It says, "You are responsible for speaking respectfully, and we will also pay attention to when your nervous system is overloaded." It says, "You are responsible for repairing harm, and we will model repair too." Sustainable expectations are not permissive. They are precise. They are compassionate. They are durable. In solution-focused therapy, we often look for preferred futures. The preferred future is a picture of what life would look like if the problem had less power. For an ADHD family, the preferred future may not be a perfectly clean house, straight A's, zero conflict, and everyone meditating peacefully in linen clothing at sunrise. Let's be real. The preferred future may be that mornings are 10% calmer. Homework starts with less yelling. The child can say, "I need help getting started," instead of melting down. The parent can say, "I am getting anxious," instead of becoming controlling. The couple can use a shared system instead of relying on resentment and mental notes. The family can repair faster. The child can make a mistake without drowning in shame. That is real progress. And that is what I want parents, couples, and families to take from today's episode. When something goes wrong, Pause before you assign meaning. A forgotten backpack does not automatically mean disrespect. A messy room does not automatically mean laziness. A late bill does not automatically mean a lack of love. A defensive response does not automatically mean the person does not care. Get curious. Look at the system. Look at the emotional process. Look at the executive functioning demand. Look at the family pattern. Then use MOURN. Name the mistake. Own your part. Understand the impact. Repair. Choose the next right step. That one framework can change the entire direction of the conversation. Real change rarely happens through shame. Shame may create temporary compliance, but it does not create long-term growth. Shame teaches people to hide. Awareness teaches people to understand. Structure teaches people to follow through. Connection teaches people they are not alone. Repair teaches people that mistakes are survivable. Accountability teaches people they are capable of doing something different next time. And in families impacted by ADHD, anxiety, OCD, depression, emotional dysregulation, and executive functioning challenges, we need all of those ingredients. We need compassion and structure. We need warmth and boundaries. We need language and systems. We need repair and responsibility. So the next time your family gets stuck in the same old pattern, I want you to try something different. Instead of asking, "Who is to blame?" ask, "What is the pattern?" Instead of asking, "Why does this always happen?" ask, "When does this happen less?" Instead of asking, "How do we fix everything?" ask, "What is one small next step?" Instead of saying, "You are the problem," say, "We are going to work on this system." That is the shift. That is where change begins. Not in perfection, not in panic, not in shame. Change begins when the family can slow down enough to see the pattern, name the need, repair the rupture, and move forward together. Thank you for taking the time to listen and learn alongside me. I encourage you to share it with a parent, spouse, teacher, coach, therapist, or anyone who may benefit from a more compassionate and effective approach to accountability. Families do not need more shame. They need better maps. They need better language. They need tools that honor both the nervous system and the family system. Until next time, remember that progress is always more important than perfection. You do not have to get everything right. You simply have to keep moving forward. If today's episode resonated with you and you are looking for more support, I do see clients through the Path to Peace therapy. I work with children, teens, young adults, adults, couples, and families navigating ADHD, anxiety, depression, OCD, emotional dysregulation, executive functioning challenges, and the relationship patterns that often develop around them. My work is grounded in a solution-focused and family systems lens, which means we do not just look at the individual behavior alone. We look at the patterns, the nervous system, diet, sleep, screen time, movement, the family dynamics, the communication loops, and the practical next steps that help people move forward. Whether you are a parent trying to better understand your child, a young adult struggling with follow-through and emotional regulation, a couple navigating ADHD in the relationship, or a family feeling stuck in the same reactive cycle, support is available. You can learn more about working with me at thepathtopecetherapy.com. I offer therapy services in California and parent coaching for families who are looking for practical, compassionate, ADHD-informed support. Until next time, remember that progress is always more important than perfection. You do not have to get everything right. You simply have to keep moving forward. You got this, and I've got you. You got this, and I've got you.